Hey you guys, let's quickly talk about that theme CFA to practice so that you know kind of what I'm looking for and what you need to do for the next part of the quiz, which is tomorrow. So I'm going to kind of walk you through what I did with one of my classes today, and then we'll do a couple quote-unquote live right now. So I have told my kids before, and actually you guys have done this too, the thing that people miss when they have to explain evidence, there's two things. Number one, they don't connect the evidence back to the theme statement. Like they don't even use theme statement words in their explanation. That's exactly what you're trying to explain. So I have had you guys before like try to find important words within your theme statement and highlight those. And then my strong suggestion to you is in your explanation, if you don't have a synonym at least of one of those words, you're off the mark. So that's one thing that I would suggest, and you are welcome to do this on the quiz tomorrow. So I'll kind of walk you through that when we get to explaining those examples. The other thing that people miss when they don't do explanations well is, again, they're not commenting on how the quote at hand contributes to the theme. So that's where those verbs are going to be super handy, and you have to use them. Okay? In fact, I will give these verbs to you on the quiz tomorrow, so you don't have to memorize them, but that's one of the things you have to do because that's exactly what you're explaining. All right, so we'll talk through a couple of these at least together, and then I might put the rest of the answers just on the slides. We'll see how long this takes. So I did this first example with my second and third period class today. If you remember, the quote is saying that the people are at peace, they're neither too happy nor too sad. So my first question to them was, which of these three important parts of our theme statement do we think that's showing? They chose the word protects. So they said this quote establishes, there's our verb, let's underline that. This quote establishes the idea that the emperor protects his people because it describes, we might say that they are at peace, or it mentions that they're at peace. You guys tell we do this super quick in class. So it mentions that they are at peace, and then I would add one more sentence, and I told them this too. And I would kind of at least kind of explain how now it's showing that they are at peace. So I would say we're not going to use that direct statement, literally where it says they're at peace, because that's way too obvious. We are going to say something like, it is clear that they aren't worried about their protection. Well, let's say safety. They aren't worried about their safety because they're neither too happy nor too sad. And if they felt in danger, felt as though they were in danger, they would not be described as happy in any way. Ooh. Okay, so again, in my first sentence here, I already used my verb. What's the quote doing? Well, it's establishing the concept of protection. I've used that word as well. What did we say? Safety is another synonym. So again, I would encourage you to do this very thing when you take the quiz. They're not too happy nor too sad, blah, 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 happy. Okay, all right. You could also, I would argue for this one, describe almost in a similar way how he is a good leader. So you could connect that back to that. Either one of those would be fine. Now, as far as the verbs go, the only one that I would say would be completely inaccurate is if you said that it contrasts the theme statement, because it doesn't contrast the theme statement in any way. Other than that, again, you're just trying to zero in on the best possible one. Okay? So I would suggest when you use one of those, underline that so that's your reminder to yourself. Highlight. If you use a keyword, you should at least have one highlight in every single answer. So question number 2. I saw him in the air, a man flying with wings. Again, going back to my second, third period class, they said this quote creates the conflict of interest that the emperor has. He ends up having to make a decision about what to do with the flying man. And again, since we have time, I would add which is a difficult one for him because he personally appreciates the flying machine, or the beauty of the flying machine, but he wants to do what is right for his people. Okay, so just in adding that tiny bit, I've explained a little bit more what specifically about the situation makes it difficult. Since we said a difficult decision in the theme statement, I just felt like we needed to get that in there as well. So they're saying, again, that it's creating that conflict of interest because, you guys, it's that moment, right, when that's thrusting him into having to make that decision, where he's seeing somebody flying for the first time. So they said creates. Again, with this one, I would say the only thing that would be inaccurate in terms of verbs would be to say that it contrasts it. Probably also maybe if you said that it directly demonstrates it, because he's not in this quote making a difficult decision. Yeah, so that would be another one. I would say no. All right, sit down with me here, said the emperor, drink some tea. So we talked about this like extensively in class the other day. So we talked both in our class online and in our live class, my kids here, about this moment when the emperor says, no, like, let's not go look at this flying machine, which should have been blowing his mind. And you guys, it was. He's doing this, like, no, let's wait kind of game for a reason. So he's very wise. It's us that has to figure it out. So in my class, we talked about, and I'm so sorry, I'm thinking of my in-person, so hopefully I'm not giving this away for you, like this moment in the text, because this is a cool one. Some guy has just been like, hey, somebody is freaking flying, and it is 400 AD China, like 400, you guys. The emperor, earlier in the text, is described as when somebody says, hey, there's a miracle, he's like, ah, yes, my tea is delicious. Like, that should have blown his mind, and he should have been rushing to go see. So there's a reason that he's like, no, let's sit and drink tea. And it is that he is trying to stall because, you guys, he doesn't want to have to kill the inventor. I'm going to argue that all day, and this is one clue. So for this one, I'm going to go back. So it's the moment he's saying, sit down, let's drink tea. To me, this is, again, kind of like the last one we looked at. It's kind of creating a moment where creating a moment that will lead him towards making a difficult decision. It's kind of emphasizing and pointing out the fact that it is difficult for him, because you can see through him stalling that he doesn't want to have to do what he knows he's going to have to do. You could perhaps connect that to the concept of protecting his people, again, kind of through the decision route. Like, this moment shows, I like the conflict of interest that we said, like a conflict of interest that the emperor has because he wants to protect his people, which is why he ultimately does decide that he needs to be executed, the inventor, and like his personal appreciation of it. So perhaps the word creates or constructs or develops, supports, establishes, any of those really would work. You could talk about the fact that that's leading towards him having to make a difficult decision, leading towards him having to decide to protect his people. You could argue too that it supports the, or leads towards like establishing a stronger image of him as a leader. Again, you guys, this is where you just have to explain it and make it make sense based on the verb you're using and how you're connecting the text back to any one of these things. So on the quiz tomorrow, you are going to read a story and you are going to be given a theme statement just like this. And your job is going to be pretty much this exact same idea where you'll have a list of quotes, and the ones that you are saying, yes, they contribute to the theme, you're going to just briefly explain how they're doing so. So I would again suggest like literally highlight things in your answer, in the theme statement, like anything and everything you need to do to make sure you're good and you're on track, you're welcome to do. The only difference with the quiz tomorrow is that you will have a list of quotes and some of them do not actually support the theme. So the ones that you're reading tomorrow when you get there that don't make sense in any way or seem to relate in any way, you don't have to explain those. You will only explain the ones that are directly related. So once you go through and you decide the ones that are directly related, you will, I don't know, I'm thinking I'm going to have you highlight that in a certain color as like, yes, I know this works. And then you're going to create this process, like how is it supporting the theme. So hopefully that helped at least a little bit. I will kind of post my answers for this in our classroom so you guys can see. My answers are really long because I'm an English teacher and I over-explain. Yours do not have to be as long as you are doing a good enough job connecting what is the theme doing and, what is the quote doing and how does it show the theme? Which part is it showing? Hopefully that makes sense. Let me know how you are doing or if you have questions. Part 2 of our quiz tomorrow.